After her mother's death, Rosie did not grieve in a quiet or contained way. She acted out, and in truth, it looked like a child falling apart in public. She ran away from school and hid in the woods. Things grew serious enough that police were called, and her brother had to go on the school PA system asking her to come out. That image says everything. She was not just sad, she was lost, and in the middle of that chaos, one person stepped in and changed her life. A teacher named Pat Marivelle became a second mother to her. Rosie later said that Marivelle loved her back to life, and that line says more than almost anything else could. It tells you how close she had come to disappearing into all that hurt. At the same time, Rosie found another kind of refuge, and it came from a screen. After her mother died, she said she watched television almost 24 hours a day. It was more than a habit. It was a way to survive. TV gave her noise when the house felt too quiet. It gave her faces, voices, jokes, and stories when real life felt too painful to sit inside. And that is what makes this part of her story so striking. The same screen she used to escape her pain slowly became the thing that shaped her future. What began as comfort turned into fascination, then into performance, and eventually into a career built on being seen by millions. By the time she was still a teenager, that shift had already begun. She was chasing laughs in small clubs on Long Island, and comedy became the thing that helped her carry everything she had been through. Some accounts say she was working clubs from 1979 to 1984. Another story says a club owner noticed her being funny during a school performance and encouraged her to try stand-up. Either way, the pattern is clear. She did not walk into business with fame waiting for her. She started in tiny rooms in front of nervous crowds, building herself piece by piece through humor. She was not just trying to be funny. She was trying to survive. That made her next decision even more significant. Instead of following a safe path, Rosie walked away from college. She had studied pre-law at Dickinson College in 1980, then later drama at Boston University. But in the end, she left school to focus on stand-up full-time. It was a real gamble. She gave up the comfort of a normal backup plan while she was still very young and chose a career that promised nothing. No certainty, no stability, no guarantee that anyone would care. Still, she went all in. For years, she lived inside the hard reality of the comedy world. The pay was low, the crowds were small, and rejection was constant. She later described that world as rough, full of drinking, drugs, and a sexist culture that made everything tougher. One account says she toured comedy clubs across 49 states over 5 years. That detail matters because it shows how much ground she had to cover before anybody called her successful. She was not just working hard in some vague sense. She was fighting through a brutal circuit, proving herself night after night, long before fame made anything easier. Then in 1984 came the break that changed her direction. Rosie appeared on Star Search, and this time the audience was not a small club crowd. It was the entire country. She became a 5-time comedy champion on the show, and that gave her something every rising comic wants, but very few ever get: real proof. Not private belief, not a kind word from a club owner, but proof on national television that she could hold a crowd and keep winning. In a business where many people fade almost as soon as they arrive, Rosie suddenly had momentum. That momentum carried her into television. In 1986, she landed her first recurring TV role on Gimme a Break, playing Nell Carter's neighbor in the final run of the series. It may not have looked enormous from the outside, but it mattered. It moved her from local stages to network television, from try to win over small rooms to being seen in millions of homes. She had crossed a line. She was no longer just a young comic chasing spots. She was becoming a national personality. The 1990s pushed that transformation even further. Rosie's early movie run was stronger than many people remember. She was not simply the funny side character passing through scenes. She became part of some of the biggest studio hits of the decade and built an image that felt warm, real, and instantly memorable. Her real breakthrough came A League of Their Own in 1992, where she played Doris Murphy, the loud and funny teammate who could not be ignored. The film opened big and finished with major box office success, meaning Rosie's performance reached an enormous audience right away. She was still new enough in film that she could have been swallowed up by a cast that included Tom Hanks, Geena Davis, and Madonna. Instead, she stood out. Then came Sleepless in Seattle in 1993, where she played Becky, the best friend to Meg Ryan's character. The role helped lock in one of Rosie's most familiar screen identities. Funny, relatable, and easy to love. But even that role had its pressures. Rosie later said it was difficult because it included the longest speech she had ever delivered in a film at that point, and a crew member even taped her lines to his leg, so she could keep reading them before shooting. That behind-the-scenes detail makes the performance feel more human. What looked effortless on screen came with nerves, pressure, and the need to rise to the moment. She appeared in Harriet the Spy in 1996 and later voiced Turk in Disney's Tarzan in 1999. That mattered because many comedians get trapped playing the same kind of role again and again. Rosie did not. She moved from live action to animation, from comedy support to family entertainment, while keeping the same comic spark people recognized. Still, even while her career was rising, there was a ceiling. Rosie later spoke openly about being cast over and over again as the funny best friend instead of the romantic lead, a pattern that said a lot about the industry at the time and about the private life she was still trying to protect. Even before her fame reached its highest point, Rosie was already using it to do something larger. In 1996, she used a $3 million book advance from Warner Books to help seed the For All Kids Foundation. The foundation focused on children and daycare quality, and over time it gave out more than $22 million in grants to child-focused organizations. That changed the way many people saw her. She was not just building career. She was building impact. That same year, another major chapter opened. On June 10, 1996, the Rosie O'Donnell show premiered, and it took off fast. Very fast. It quickly became the #1 daytime talk show in America, and by May 1997, Rosie had already beaten Oprah to win the Emmy for Outstanding Talk Show Host. The show went on to win 5 Daytime Emmy Awards for Outstanding Talk Show. That kind of rise in such a short time is rare. The public began calling her the Queen of Nice. She could be funny, emotional, warm, and playful all at once, and viewers responded to that combination. Her set felt like the center of celebrity culture. She interviewed stars like Tom Cruise and Madonna, but what really made the show work was not just a guest list. It was the feeling. Rosie made daytime television feel friendly and personal, as though fame had been invited into a room where regular people still mattered. When she came out publicly in 2002, it was not simply a celebrity deciding to be honest. It came after years of keeping that part of herself hidden, because she feared the damage it could do to her career, and more than that, what the backlash could do to her children. By then, she was already one of the most recognizable faces on television, living in front of millions while carrying a truth she felt she had to protect. Before she ever came out, Rosie had already adopted 4 children. Parker in 1995, Chelsea in 1997, Blake in 1999, and Vivian in 2002, raising a full and demanding household as a single mother while hiding a major part of her identity from the world. Vivian was adopted the very same year Rosie came out, which means the moment she finally told the truth happened right as her family was expanding again. In 2004, Rosie married Kelly Carpenter in San Francisco, making it one of the earliest high-profile same-sex celebrity marriages in the United States. But for Rosie, it was not only symbolic. It was also deeply practical. She later said legal issues played a major role, as the state had at one point denied spousal privilege, meaning private communication between them could be used in court. So the marriage was not just about love or visibility. It was also about protection. Yet even that moment could not stay simple. The California Supreme Court later voided those marriages after the state reversed course, making the whole event feel historic and fragile at the same time. Her fight for gay adoption rights became even louder when she and Kelly tried to adopt a foster child from Florida, where state law blocked adoption by homosexual people at the time. She was no longer arguing over a distant issue. She was fighting over a child who was already part of her real life. The law was no longer abstract. It was standing inside her home. Then her life took another hard turn when she joined The View in 2006. On December 20th of that year, Rosie attacked Donald Trump on air over his handling of the Miss USA controversy, mocking the image he had built around himself and calling out what she saw as fake morality. That one segment did not stay inside daytime television. It exploded into tabloids, late-night jokes, network coverage, and a full public feud. Almost overnight, the argument became national entertainment. Rosie later said the backlash changed her life. Suddenly, paparazzi were outside her home. But Trump was only part of the pain. The other part was Barbara Walters. Rosie later said she felt betrayed by Barbara and believed she had not been protected when the Trump fight turned ugly. She described a major backstage confrontation between them, saying it became loud enough to shock people nearby. Walters denied speaking badly about Rosie to Trump, but that denial did not erase the damage Rosie felt. For her, it stopped being about a political clash and became deeply personal. The deeper wound was not only what Trump said. It was a feeling that someone she once saw as a mentor had left her exposed. On August 6, 2015, during the first Republican primary debate, Megyn Kelly pressed Trump about his insults toward women. He answered with a line heard by millions. Only Rosie O'Donnell. In 1 second, he turned an old feud into a debate stage punchline. What had begun years earlier as a television argument was now being used in a presidential race. It was no longer part of entertainment culture. It had crossed into national politics. Trump kept attacking Rosie again and again over the years, calling her ugly, a loser, disgusting in interviews, public remarks, and online posts. She kept answering back instead of disappearing. At some point, the feud stopped feeling like a side drama and started looking like part of his public identity. On August 14, 2012, Rosie suffered a near-fatal heart attack that doctors described as a widowmaker, with her left anterior descending artery 99% blocked. The warning signs have been there: arm pain, chest discomfort, nausea, clamminess, and intense heat, but she did not call emergency services right away. She took aspirin and went to sleep. Doctors later inserted a stent to open the artery, and Rosie admitted she was lucky to be alive. Instead of keeping that moment private, she turned it into a warning for other women. She wrote a short poem online telling women to know the symptoms, trust their inner voice, and call 911. The message spread quickly because it came from someone who had nearly died by ignoring her own body. Her personal life continued to carry heavy weight. She married Michelle Rounds in June 2012, but by February 2015 had filed for divorce after separating in late 2014. What followed was a bitter custody fight over their adopted daughter, Dakota, with arguments over parenting, nannies, and sole custody dragging through 2015 and into 2016. Then Michelle Rounds died in 2017, just over a year after the divorce was finalized, giving the whole story another layer of sadness. And the pain inside her family did not stop there. Her daughter, Chelsea, became part of a very public rupture, claiming Rosie had told her to leave just days before her 18th birthday. Chelsea later chose to live with her birth mother, turning a private family breakdown into tabloid material. After Trump won again in November 2024, Rosie said that reading Project 2025 was the moment that pushed her to leave the United States. She moved to Ireland with her non-binary child, Clay, departing on January 15, 2025, just 5 days before Trump's inauguration. That timing makes the move feel sharp and deliberate. It did not sound like a slow celebrity relocation. It felt like an exit made under pressure, with politics, parenting, and fear all closing in at once. Rosie did not announce the move right away. She quietly left the country and only spoke publicly after she had already settled. She said she made the decision because it was the best choice for both of them and because she wanted a safer life away from the political climate in America. When she spoke about Ireland, she described the people as kind and welcoming, saying she felt at home very quickly. And the move was not random. She was in the process of obtaining Irish citizenship through her grandparents, who had been from Ireland, giving her a real legal path to stay long-term. In July 2025, Trump escalated the conflict in a way that stunned even those already used to their long history. He publicly said he was giving serious consideration to stripping Rosie O'Donnell of her U.S. citizenship and called her a threat to humanity. Legal experts quickly pointed out that a president cannot revoke the citizenship of someone born on American soil, making the statement look more like a public attack than any legitimate legal action. Rosie fired back and made clear she would not be intimidated. Then came one final twist. In February 2026, Rosie quietly returned to the United States for 2 weeks without telling many people. She said she wanted to hold her children again and had not been home in over a year. She also said she wanted to test whether it still felt safe to return before bringing Clay over later in the summer. This was not a carefree family visit. It was careful, guarded, and measured. She was not just coming back for warmth and memories. She was checking whether the country she had left still felt livable and whether the life she had built there still had room for her inside it.